115, 117, and 119. This is a special exception to permit a tattoo shop. Item number 5, case 2019-0038 for 2225 Gervais Street, a variance to the off-street parking requirement for an office use. And item number 6, case 2019-0039 for 1346 Kingston Road, a variance to the fence height requirement in the front yard setback.
Very good. So just to be clear, we are about to vote on all 4 of those applications along with the minutes. So if anybody in the audience or on the board would like to have any of those removed from the consent agenda, please raise your hand now. Very good. I'll accept a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the consent agenda subject to all staff comments.
A second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item number 7 on the regular agenda is deferred. Items 8, 9, and 10 are at 2530 and 2520 Divine Street. There are 3 separate applications, but the applicant's going to discuss all at the same time. This is a special exception to establish drive-through facilities for a financial institution, a variance to the buffer transition yard requirement, as well as a variance to the off-street parking requirement for a financial institution. The applicant is welcome to come forward.
Good morning, board members. My name is Walter Long, and I'm a senior vice president with First Palmetto Bank. And we're excited to be moving our corporate headquarters to Divine Street and also having a retail branch operation. Not sure if many of you are aware, but we're one of the largest privately owned, locally owned banks in South Carolina. And we have 23 branches across South Carolina, mainly from the Midlands to the coast. But as far as our application is concerned for today, as you know, I'm a banker, so I brought my entourage with me today that can answer any of the technical questions that we have. And I think you're aware that we had some concerns from the Hermitage HOA and from our neighbor, Carrie Murphy, who we met with a week or so ago. And great conversation. I think they took away from that meeting that we want to be good neighbors, not only for our immediate adjacent neighbors, but for all of Divine Street and the neighborhood. Again, we're excited to be coming to Divine Street. We think it's going to be great for our employees, for our tenants, and for the surrounding community. So with that, I'll take any questions.
What are we doing which one are we doing first? I'm sorry.
They're just presenting on all together. So it's the special exception and 2 variances. So it's the drive-through, the buffer transition, and the off-street parking.
So if you don't mind, then if you've got your application, I'd like to go through first all of the criteria for a special exception.
Mr. Staley, if I may, I meant to introduce the people I brought with me. Our engineer, Dan Creed, our attorney, Stuart Lee, and our contractor, Chris Kirk.
And you're welcome to have any of your consultants go through these with us, especially if they filled them out. They may be more familiar with it than you, so it doesn't matter to us.
Okay.
Good morning, I'm Dan Creed.
Hey, Dan. So are you familiar with the requirements for the special exception that were on the application?
Yes, sir.
Could you just go through those, just briefly explain why this meets the criteria for those.
Certainly. Again, the reason we're here is because for the special exception is to create a drive-through facility. With respect to how this drive-through facility will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular traffic or pedestrian traffic, is that the way that it's laid out provides adequate stacking at the teller window and at the proposed ATM to prevent traffic from backing out into adjacent streets and to promote and enhance internal circulation. With respect to the possible adverse impact on adjoining properties in terms of environmental factors, the drive-through, as a renovation, the drive-through facilities are being located in areas which are presently already paved and are in the interior of the property. With respect to the aesthetic character of the area, again, the drive-through facilities are located away from adjoining streets and shielded from Divine Street for the drive-up teller window. With respect to a possible adverse impact on public safety, certainly the bank is very concerned about public safety and the safety in operating the ATM and the drive-through tellers, and they have made provisions for that. Regarding a concentration or proliferation of similar uses, I mean, there are other banks. There's another bank down the road and in 5 Points, but any concentration is minor. It would not be detrimental. With respect to the special exception being consistent with the character and intent of the underlying district, clearly financial institutions are permitted in a C2, and this is certainly a pertinent use for that. With respect to how the exception is appropriate for the location and compatible with the permitted uses adjacent to and in the vicinity. Again, this is an existing facility. It's an office building, and the drive-through facilities will occur on paved areas and will not impact adjacent properties. And similarly, with respect to the impacts to the public interest, again, a renovation of the existing office building, everything is contained internally. Everything is laid out for safety and queuing and for aesthetics.
Very good. Any questions from the board? So, I guess if we're going to go ahead and do this all together, we should go through each one and the variance next. So if you don't mind, let's look at the buffer variance request next.
In a nutshell, and these two variances are related because we're trying to bring the parking up to the extent that we can from a presently non-conforming use, and we're, as part of that, in providing parking geometry, we're trying to meet as much as we can of the landscape requirements, again, for an existing building which is not being expanded, but just the activity is being adjusted. So, there's several parts of the landscaping to look at: street protected yards, the tree islands. What we're requesting a variance for is the buffer yard, and the reason that we are is because there's presently already not a buffer yard between this office building and the condo unit, the Hermitage, behind it. And so essentially what we're requesting to do is make other landscaping improvements and leave this buffer area the same, or the width the same, which is very small, but then provide and improve the fence that's there now that provides buffer. So what we're requesting to do is maintain what's there and improve the condition of the fence. And if it suits the board, I'll go through the conditions. One, obviously, what are the extraordinary and exceptional conditions that apply to this particular instance, and that is, the building was constructed in 72, the layout is fixed, the parking is fixed. We're dealing with existing conditions that we now have to address. How do these conditions not apply to other properties or structures in the vicinity? Again, an existing building, an existing very smaller than required buffer yard area, is specific to this site. Describe the ways in which the application of the requirements of the zoning ordinance would prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Again, we've got an existing building of a fixed size that is not being expanded. We have a parking configuration, again, which is fixed. And so by providing this buffer yard, which does not presently exist, we would then be forced to have or result in even less parking and would further increase the nonconformity with respect to the parking requirements. Describe the ways in which the granting of the variance would not be a substantial detriment to the adjacent parcels of public good or harm the character of the district. Again, it's the continuation of a long-standing, non-detrimental condition, and where it gives us an opportunity to improve other aspects of the landscaping ordinance now that we're having to comply with those requirements for a building constructed in 1972, in which the landscaping ordinance didn't exist in its present form. And how is this variance the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land? When we look at all the aspects that are required for the landscaping ordinance, it is our opinion that addressing all the other requirements, leaving the buffer as a variance, again, that presently doesn't exist, improving the fence seemed to be the minimum. It seemed to be how we could maximize compliance with the remainder of the ordinance and minimize the impact of the variance itself. And similarly, and how is this in harmony with the purpose of intent of the zoning ordinance? This variance allows us to address street protective yard requirements, parking requirements, and everything else, and we believe maximizes conformance with all aspects of the zoning ordinance.
Could you speak in more detail about the 15-foot landscape bumper that we're talking about here, and what the existing conditions are there and what the plan is?
Yes. Can we flip to the landscape plan? Okay, we'll work off this. That's fine. At the bottom at the plan bottom below that building, you see the paving, which is in the same place as it is now, goes almost to the property line. That is a condition which presently exists and is a condition that we propose to continue. It's that 15-foot buffer that's required between this commercial use and the high-impact residential use that adjoins it to the south.
Is the dumpster existing now, or is it proposed? I can't.
Dumpster location as shown on the plan is the proposed location.
Proposed location, okay.
That was a concern of the HOA.
Right.
And so we decided,
Make sure you're in the microphone so we got that recorded.
after we met with the HOA, we kind of tried to wrap our heads around a better situation. And so we don't need the dumpster, quite frankly. Every tenant that we have in the building, including ourselves, is commercial office use, very limited. Most people shred their documents anyway. So we already talked with the City of Columbia about just using regular garbage containers. So the dumpster will go away completely.
Very good.
So, Chuck, following up on that comment, that was an area I had identified as well. I understand the request with respect to the larger site and the larger building and the parking spaces, but just looking at it, plan view, you would think that would be the southern portion of the smaller site would be an area that you could, bring up to the current landscaping ordinance to comply with that. I guess, and I heard your answer, the reason was because it's an existing asphalt surface now, and you didn't want to disrupt it, and,
This-
right, there's existing, it's asphalt on the southern portion of the smaller site all the
The
way.
southern portion of the smaller site, the buffer is being provided. Is the eastern portion,
Well, I guess it'd be the southwestern portion that the 15-foot buffer's being provided, but I guess isolating the smaller parcel only, it's not, the buffer's not going to be provided across the extents of the smaller parcel, correct? Isn't it
the
just
buffer
on the
will not be provided along the western boundary of the smaller parcel to the point that the parking lot extends south. Along the eastern portion, I'm sorry, on the eastern side, it will not be provided up to the point where, as far as the parking extends. On the western portion, on the southern portion, the buffer is provided. You can see how that, the parcel to the west is commercial and a buffer is not required. And so the buffer becomes required when we reach that residentially zoned parcel at the southwest corner. And that's where you see the arc and the labeled 15-foot buffer where it is provided. And then, of course, along the southern property line, we have the buffer.
It looks like on the aerial, is there a big tree that's not shown on your plan,
There may be.
in that 15-foot area? And, okay.
Yeah, and just to clarify again, so they do meet landscaping everywhere except just this back area here where the mouse is being shown.
Right.
That's the only place that this
That's
variance is
that's
applicable
basically to remain as a existing condition essentially.
Okay, I think I understand now. So the answer is, it's not required in that area, that it's not being shown. Okay, very good.
And that currently is a
Because-
retaining wall with
Okay,
a fence
understood.
that, the fence is not in good shape. The bank intends to substantially improve the fence or replace it if necessary.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay, we have one more variance to discuss. And that would be the off-street parking
Yes, sir.
variance for a financial institution, I believe.
To recap the bank's approach, presently the site is not conforming with respect to the parking requirements. 61 parking spaces are required, 53 are presently exist on the site. The bank has purchased the property next door, intends to demo the building, or proposes to demo the building, and construct additional parking, which, when coupled with the restriping, if you will, and the introduction of tree islands, permits the available parking to be maximized while accommodating the ATM and the drive-through. So, to repeat, the bank has taken a building that doesn't conform, bought and demoed a building next to it to improve the matter and to reduce the impact from the proposed improvements. These will be similar to the conditions that we discussed for the buffer variance, but the extraordinary exceptional conditions, again, an existing building built in 72, when prior to the present parking requirements. And it now applies to this particular parcel because of the value of the interior renovations that are proposed in the bank. Application of the minimum parking standards, when we go to how would application of the requirements restrict or the utilization of the property. Again, an existing building with enough room for a tray and a half of parking around it to require 61 parking spaces would require that the drive-through and the ATM be eliminated, that perhaps we have a greater buffer requirement as we push parking towards the south, towards that residential area, or a larger buffer variance request, or I don't know if there's a way to designate space inside the building as non-usable or not, but that's the kind of ways that might be addressed where we require to fully address that existing nonconformity now. Granting of the variance, how it will be of detriment or not be of detriment to adjacent parcels of the public good. Again, this is an existing condition that is being improved on by removing the building next door and utilizing that area for additional parking. And how is it the minimum necessary? You can, again, this is a trade-off between attempting to conform to the extent possible with the landscaping requirements and provide parking geometry, the full 9 by 18 spaces, the 22-foot aisles, that kind of thing. So we've maximized the amount of compact spaces available, made all the others comply with the geometric standards of the ordinance, and while respecting the landscaping ordinance. That essentially is the same answer to number 6, and that is, how is this in harmony with the purpose of intent of the zoning ordinance? And by this approach, we feel like we've minimized the variances needed for landscaping and for parking.
Very good. If you don't mind, I think that there's a good exhibit here that I think would help kind of gel things together. And Walter, you might be able to assist with this too. But it was the concerns of the Hermitage regarding zoning variance requests for 2520 and 2530 Divine. And we talked about number 1, which is the new dumpster location. Another one was downlighting, you know, and the lights. Can you address that?
Sure. The downlighting, of course, being primarily an 8:30 to 5 operation, there's not going to be lighting in the parking lot. The only lighting that we expect to have will be near the ATM for security reasons. And I believe the HOA understood that and was agreeable that that was necessary. Any other lighting that will be on the building will be at the entrance. But other than that, there's no parking lot lighting that we're going to be adding. And if we did, I don't think it's going to be necessary, but we would agree to downlighting if it were necessary.
And I guess one of the other things was that they mentioned was security of the area at the very rear of the property, and you pretty much addressed that, I think, but can you just elaborate a little bit more?
Sure, of course. I mean, we'll have all of our normal bank security and security cameras to that effect. And certainly if we needed additional lighting for security reasons, we would be agreeable to adding that. So I don't know what else I can address to that effect. We certainly want our building to be secure and anybody who's coming to our facility.
And regarding the landscape plan, there was a mention of the right tree at the right place. Did y'all talk about that?
Sure, and I don't believe we've gotten to that point yet. When we get to the landscaping requirements at this point, we've been trying to get the plan approved so that we can get our hardscaping and landscaping plan in place. Gotcha.
Okay. That's really all I wanted to verify. Any other questions from the board? Great. We would love to have anybody that wants to speak for or against this application for 2 variances and a special exception to please come forward. Any board discussion?
I think they did a good job of meeting with the homeowners association here to discuss their concerns. We don't see that often, but that helps mitigate some of the concerns before they come in front of us, so I certainly am appreciative of that. I think as we look at the 3 different requests, the special exception for the drive-through impact to me seems minor, if any. I think it's a well-thought-out plan. And it's I don't see any adverse impact there. I think the buffer, the variance for the buffer yard request is certainly logical. You have to lose a lot of parking spaces, and we've got a request for a variance to the parking requirements anyway, so it doesn't make sense to me do that, I think we're going to end up with an improvement. The fence does look sort of like it's in poor condition, so I think when this becomes developed, that'll be an improvement. So the only thing that's really debatable, in my opinion, is the parking request, but that's a common request that we're discussing up here often, and they're not that far off, honestly. If you look at the proposed site plan, it looks like there's 9 spaces surrounding the 2 parcels on both Divine and King Street, and if you add that to the spaces they're providing, you're almost there. So I think they've done a good job of configuring the site plan and reusing the existing conditions while maintaining a minor impact to the residential parcels that surround it. So everything I see here with these 3 requests, very reasonable and looks good to me.
Okay. So, I think that I can make a motion separately on all of these, and we can vote on them all at one time. What do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, you can either split them up, or if the motion's going to be the same for all.
Does anybody on the board have an
just-
objection to voting on all of these at one time?
So just make sure to reference just item 8, 9, and 10
Right.
in any motion.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the special exception 2019-0030-SE, and also approve the variance 2019-0031-V, and also the variance number 2019-0032-V. Subject to all comments of staff in the applications, and I think pursuant to the terms of the application presented by the applicant.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the final item on the agenda is the approval of the updated Board of Zoning Appeals Rules of Procedure. So they had not been updated since 2012, so I felt like some tweaks were necessary. So if everyone is on board, so just a motion of approval or denial for those.
Move to approve.
I second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No other business.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. Excellent.